Here we go. It's another beautiful night in CAV land. Hi there, JS Twitch. How are you doing? Give everybody a little bit of time to show up. Ta-da! And there's Tiger Wraith. Slowly they trickle in. Waiting for a text from my boss. Well, it sucks that you have to get a text at 9 o'clock at night, your time. Oh, are you Central Time? I thought you were far enough east that you're Eastern Time. Well, live and learn. Something new every day. Knoxville is Eastern Time. So different parts of your state are in different time zones? That's stupid. Oh, well, it's the way of the world. It's bad enough that we have states that opt out. Oh, well. And the rest of the world hates us. No, I think there's other places in the world that do daylight savings times too, so. Well, not all of Europe, because I deal with somebody in the Netherlands all the time, and they don't do it. So it changes how far ahead of he is. So, all right. Well, what are we going to jump onto tonight? I had grand plans of having something here to work on and everything like that. And it just fell apart. It just didn't work. I mean, it's a good, deal. If you caught the Facebook post earlier today, we are having some trouble getting some orders out the door. Mainly from the standpoint of generally we have a pretty average number we know when we do a new release that we're gonna have. So when we got the order, got everything ready and cast last week, and was ready to start shipping, we greatly underestimated the amount of figures that we were going to need. So we have run out. We ship all our retail stores first so that they have them on the shelf. And generally we try to do that the week ahead before we put them online, but because we were running late anyway, it all got put on there. So we got all shipped out to the retail stores and there was nothing left. And we were short for retail stores too. So we are in the process of casting up new figures and getting them packaged. Hopefully we will have that done by Friday and everything out the door. Throwing into that is I head off to Denton this weekend for CAV Day. Hi there, Pigpen. Welcome. And then we've got somebody sick that was here, supposed to be here helping. So, and we're getting ready for the show out in Denver/Aurora. Not this weekend, but the weekend after, out at Genghis Khan. So it just sucks. Just lots going on. And unfortunately, I have to be a little part of all of it. I've got a big quote that I'm trying to get together for a casting job. And I mean, it's all good stuff to have. It just sucks. I don't like being this way. But we'll get over it. This too shall pass. It is what it is. That's all I can do. I have long ago given up the going into panic mode and getting all upset. It's nothing I'm going to do is going to change it, and I feel miserable to boot. Part of and what sucks too in the standpoint of is the mammoth, the mastodon, it being such a big figure. There's not very many of them on a mold. So it is slow casting. It's not like, when we do like the cobra or something like that, where we get like 16 of them at a time. That'd be nice. I think we get like 3 mastodons. I hope that everybody's been checking out the videos that Rob over at Rob's Tabletop World's been putting up. Oh God, yes. Yeah. Yeah, the mastodon just it blew it apart. So, I mean, we're totally out of all of them. It depends. Part of the problem that you have with molds is they get hot. So you can't blow through them. And then obviously there's multiple molds for multiple pieces. So throw on the fact that the mastodon is so big, and then on top of that it has so many parts. I think the mastodon by itself ended up being 5 or 6 molds. So yeah, that was a good video. I think he pretty much hit everything on the head of the nail there. One thing that I always try to point out is CAV does have some of that micromanaging that you get from Battletech from the standpoint of, internals and everything. But it's all figured into their damage track. So instead of doing all that extra rolling and marking off an actuator or an engine hit or something like that, and then applying that result, we've just already applied the result. So, all that stuff is in there. So, it's just a matter of, how you want to describe it. When a model takes damage or whatever, I mean, you can, say, hey, this guy blew his arm off or something like that. It's just how you want to describe it or think of it, but that's what's happening. So, but I think he did a pretty good job, pretty good thing. We said that the main problem that they don't bring up over and over that I see with Alpha Strike is that, and this was the same problem that we had with the second version of CAV, is anytime that you hodgepodge everything down into where there's basically only 3, 4, 5 numbers. I haven't looked at all the cards, so I can't, this is just my anecdotal look, but there's just only so much you can do with that. There's only so many combinations that you can put those in there, and to the point where it becomes, 5 or 6 things or more are all the same thing. The only difference is the miniature that's used to represent it. So that was something that I greatly wanted to change when we did Strike Ops. Is we needed to move away from that sweet spot of, if you go back and look at the CAVHQ cards, everything was basically 11, 12, 13, 14, maybe 15. Armor, dupe, that was everything. Because that's where it had to be for anything to even survive and have any kind of a game to it. So anyway, so you got that going for you. Oh, but I always get in trouble when I go to talking. I've got piles of things in the works. We're just, there's no, it's all the same. There's just no, when you've defined everything down to a number, you're just not going to get a whole lot of difference there. So, that's where it falls into. But by the same token, a lot of that appeals to newer gamers. I mean, that's just the mindset that, Games Workshop and everything has really put into the current way games are played. When everything is based on a D6, like they are in Warhammer. Obviously, they've got some things that change up with some of the special abilities and things like that. But all the grunts, all that stuff like that, again, they're all the same thing. If you go back and look at all their stats, they're all basically the same numbers. It's just a matter of it's this many and that many. But after we get get past this release, we're already working on the next release. I didn't want to go ahead and put anything out on that yet because I didn't want to get in trouble. But we're going to do better. We're going to have the next, we're basically going to skip February release, which is okay. January was a big release with 5 models, and try to get caught back up for March. So we leave here next Wednesday, so there will not be a show next week. Hi, Hobby with Tim. How are you tonight? Because we will be on our way. Well, hopefully, by the time the show will go, we will be there, weather permitting. Hanging in there. Well, that's all you can be expected to do. But yeah, last year we went to the show and we just kind of squeezed in between weather. We had bad weather the day before we left, good weather while we were driving, and then bad weather came in the day after we got there. And then luckily that when we were ready to come home on that Monday, the sun was out, and it was little slushy getting stuff loaded up, but other than that, it was good. So I'm hoping that we squeeze through that again. Yeah, well, I mean, ideally, I wish I could have a release every day. I mean, we've got so many models that we're trying to catch up with and get stuff out, and it'll be, and we're trying to play a little catch up with some of the. I know we're in the process too. The Fire Drake, the Dart, and all those are. Yeah. Well, I know, yeah, obviously from a monetary standpoint, it would suck for consumers. But, as a player, there's just so much that we need to get caught up with. So, but like I said, we're switching the last of the metal minis over into the dual cast. So those will be coming up. I don't know that those will be an official release. We'll just say, hey, these are now available in plastic instead of metal. No, I think the only difference is the way that they won't be on slot basis. So the hip, torso, whatever joint will become its own part, and then the two legs, and then a base for them to go on. One thing that we are going to make sure that we start doing is we are they're just to change up the legs. Because the in metal, all that piece was cast as one piece, and so we could get away with it in metal, but we will never be able to do that in plastic. But one thing we are doing is we're standardizing the base that these things go on. So going forward, we don't have to do a new one every time. We're going to make sure we're going to have 2 or 3 of these that we've already got. That make sure that legs and everything match up for pegs. Well, I've got a bunch of new MDF kits that I want to get out. Now with having the 3D printing in-house with the production printers, there's a lot of little things that we want to start moving around and get out terrain-wise. Just crap that you can put out on the board if you want to, cars, things like that in scale. I know that we've got, farm fields, that we'll have that we can print out. The engineering vehicle sets, those are all going to be 3D printed rather than put in on mold. I know that we've got the revetments, and there's just so much stuff, and just can't get it out all day. So I do know that I think the next plane coming out is the CAVHQ. So Terran should be happy. I know also that we are finishing up the Typhoon, the Ritter. That one's getting ready. I know that the Hind, the helicopter, the Amethyst helicopter, is on the short list. The problems that we were worried about having with the Hind, with the props and everything like that, it's been kind of self-correcting now with the 3D printer. I know that we're redoing the design a little bit just to make it easier to put it together. I wasn't real happy with that, but we've talked about it, and that's I think that we are moving down that direction. That was part of the reason we wanted to get two CAVs out for different factions, Rock and Terran, because I think that just having one or two of those on the board will look cool. But yeah, no, it's something that we are definitely have talked about. I don't want to go, because I always get myself in trouble if I talk too far ahead of things that we're talking about. But yeah, there's probably something down the road to go with that. It's just one of those projects that's I've got to get all this other stuff out of the way for excuse me, first. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the RPG, where we've been doing more work on that side of it, and we want to do figures for that as well. So those kind of go hand in hand. Oh no, I'm ready to rush. I wish I could rush. I wish that there was either 20 of me or 40 hours in a day. I need more hours in the day. It's amazing how fast every day goes. I mean, it's just nuts. That's kind of scary, wouldn't it? Be tired 20 Johns. I don't think my wife could handle it. She'd be in the nut house in a heartbeat. Now I know that the next video up from Rob is going to be his paint video. So I don't know if that is going up today or Friday or let alone 20. If I could just keep him up here like at the shop, just working all the time, it'd be okay. I could just kind of come in and go, hey, John, where are we at? Let's go. Yes. Well, yeah, other than the fact that, we got to be careful how those get copied. We don't need the idiot savant to be number 20. Oh. Yeah, androids would be okay. Would go crazy and wipe out the world. 20 Johns would be something like that. An Oblivion movie. Of course, those were clones, programmed clones. Join up with Skynet. Yeah. But I generally get out here about 9 o'clock in the morning. And like I said, it just seems like I blink and it's already 6 o'clock. I loved Oblivion. That is one of my repeat movie list. When you're working on something or you're bored or, and you just like, I need to throw something on the TV for noise or whatever. I've got that list of those movies. And Oblivion's on there. Battle for LA, Predator, it's the good stuff. Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow. I was just trying to think of that name. It was Edge of Tomorrow. I wish they had done the suits a little better. I always thought that the suits were a little, I don't know, too basic. I'd like to see better battle armor. I'd love for them to do a true to the book Starship Troopers, the animated series that they did with the computer anime was great. I thought that was really, really good. And I think that would be really cool to have to see the it done right. Also, there's a book that was written called Armor by a guy named John Stakely, and that would be a really good book that I would like to see brought if it was done right. I know that he wrote a book about vampire hunters too, that was like vampires with an S with a dollar sign or whatever, that was made into a movie. I think James Wood was in it. Yeah, the animated Starship Troopers was great. It was a great series. I'm sure they're on somewhere. Either that or get the Blu-ray or buy them. I bet Amazon Prime's got them. See what. I guess Amazon is shutting down their customer donation thing on the 20th. Guess they got tired of helping out the rest of the world, touching on those billions. Let's see, Starship Troopers. I guess probably would not hurt to put animated series. I guess that was the Roughnecks. I guess that was the series. Yeah. So they're like $9.99, $10 the DVDs. Oh. Have to check that out more. That'd be a good one to have on Crackle. You know, I tried to. Yeah, they got to. They got to do a better one. I think the Crackle. I had problems watching stuff on Crackle. So, but Tim, it's all right. That's just this is that kind of night. So if somebody wants to bring up something, wants me to talk about something CAV, throw it out there. But I mean, going back to like talking about the skirmish game, yeah, I think it would be really cool to put together. I mean, I go out there and I look and, and I see what's out there. That seems to be the higher end sci-fi skirmish side, and you've got Warhammer 40K, which is what it is, and if you're into those kind of games, this is not what our game will be. It won't be something that simple. You've got Infinity, Manic Games. Don't they have some kind of, it's funny. I never could get. I like the. Well, not. I mean, I'm talking about the universe as a whole. Obviously, whatever their version of whatever their skirmish. Yeah, kill team. I'm sorry. Yeah, kill team. I just was talking about 40K as a whole. Hi, Gog. I have played Heavy Gear. I actually, years ago when they very first came out, I had a meeting with them. We were talking about doing some things with them at the time. Ratham, the company up in Canada, was doing their miniatures for them. So they had introduced me to them, and it never went anywhere with those guys. But, I played with Heavy Gear, and I like Heavy Gear. The problem that I have with Heavy Gear anymore is these little tiny figures. All my Heavy Gear are HO scale, so they're like this big, and I love painting them. I loved playing with them. I think that it's unfortunate that they went. At the time, I could understand going down in size a little bit because metal was getting more and more expensive. But when they switched over to plastic, they went smaller, and I don't know. I think that they missed a grand opportunity to go back to the bigger size figures and stand out. It is, yeah. I mean, for me, it's for that kind of game, for what it is. It's just hard for me to forget about the old gears. I watch. Of course, I belong to their Facebook page and stuff like that, and I've supported. I think I did 2 of the Kickstarters, and then I ended up. Once I got them in, and I don't think I ever did anything with them other than look at the deals, and I think I gave them away or sold them to somebody. But there's somebody that's been on there, and I'm sorry if you're this person or it gets back to you, I apologize. But they've been magnetizing those little things so they can switch out the little gun arms. I guess it's from being 55 years old and my eyesight sucking and not having the patience anymore. But I cannot imagine switching those little guns out on those gears with magnets. So that's nutty. But I still have packs of the HO infantry that they had. They had great infantry for that game. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're so little tiny guys like that. And when they're that small, I mean, just have extras. I don't know. But anyway, so, there's 3 or 4 sci-fi skirmish games out there. Obviously I don't have any plans or design to try to go out and be on a large scale on the deal like that. But, I think that we can do our version of a skirmish game, and skirmish may not be exactly what we'll do, maybe a little more than skirmish or whatever, but not a big mass combat game, obviously. But I think that we could do something and have our niche for that, for somebody that wants something with a little more meat to it. I don't know necessarily that it would follow along with the damage track system or not. One of the things I always thought that would work out really good for a squad-based, 28 millimeter game or whatever, is have the squad be the individual lines of the data card, of the damage track. So as it takes a damage point, that's how you track it. You take a guy off from the deal. So that's the great thing about the damage track is it's very, very flexible in how you want to put things through there. If you've ever played Warlord, the fantasy game that Reaper put out, it uses a version of the damage track and works really, really well. And I would think that probably if we do a 28 millimeter game, it will be something along those lines. Basically where you have heroes, officers, NCOs, and grunts. With your NCOs, your officers, and your heroes being individual figures, whereas your grunts obviously would be a squad of figures. And I'd love to do a fantasy game again. I helped on the original fantasy rules that we did at Reaper, Dark Heaven Apocalypse. I worked on that. I helped design that. And I've always wanted to go back into fantasy and stuff like that. I know we've kicked it around here with some figures and stuff like that. And there's really not a really good fantasy game out there right now as far as, I know that the Kings of War is out there. Is that fantasy though? Yeah, I think it's fantasy. Or is it is it more historical? I don't know. Privateer Press, you got, it is fantasy. I can't remember if it was fantasy or just historical. But nothing that just seems to be, I don't know. There's lots of, I see different games, different pockets of different places with different things, but I think that it would be cool to go back and do a fantasy set of rules. I know that, now that we have in-house production 3D printers, there's lots of stuff that I really want to move down terrain-wise that I really want to start playing with. As far as I think that where a good place that we are going to be situated is coming up with kind of a hybrid kit as opposed to being an MDF kit or a 3D print or a dual cast, or whatever, is some of these kits that we can take out of all three of them, and be able to put stuff together that I think will, I think each of them has its pluses and minuses. And I think that the ability to use those together will come up with some kits that, especially, obviously when you deal with MDF kits, you're, as long as you're dealing with squares and, basic shapes like that, MDF works out really great. It's when you start getting some angles and stuff like that. If you don't think ahead in your planning or that, or you get it has problems. So everybody designs their kits around those so that they can get around that. I think that it would be cool to be able to use some of those kits, the MDF to get your base, the big squares, the big stuff, everything like that, and then being able to have the dual cast or 3D printed items or something like that that can be glued on and added to the kit, I think is really, really cool. And come up with some neat things. I mean, it's like some of the stuff that we want to do, that we'll use the FDM printers for, like the farmer fields. It's something that you wouldn't normally do or have on the board or something. But if you wanted to have that on there, and have access, if you're that kind of a person, we'll have that ability to have those, that you'll be able to order those in if you want to put it in. Now, one of the things that things like that suffer from in 10 millimeter scale even is the fact that if you did a true, 1 acre square, it would be huge. I think an acre is like 600 and some feet square. Let's see. Been a while. Let's see. Size of an acre. Oh. Oh, 208 feet long and wide. All right. Yeah, so at 200 and of course we use 1/180th in CAV, 10 millimeter. That's what we call our 10 millimeter, which works out to 15 feet. So 208 divided by 15 is 14 inches square. Yeah, so basically in CAV, 1 acre field is 14 inches square. So I doubt that, I don't know, I guess we could do them in quarters if you wanted to put deal on there. But it's one of the things we run into buildings. If you take, if you put buildings true into scale, as far as height, there's no problem. But when you start doing, let's see, we came up with this one night we were talking about. Yeah, so like the Empire State Building is 423 feet long and 187 feet wide. So if you built, if you had a building I mean you could on the deal. You're talking, the footprint of the Empire State Building on your board is what, almost 30 inches by 15 inches. So obviously that you really probably are not going to build too many buildings in square. I mean, just one thing that I've always liked to do is when you're trying to get an idea of is go to Google Maps and look at your downtown, especially if you're in a smaller town, it's even easier. Let's see here if we can pull up let's see, we want to see the real, oh, I've lost my mouse. There we go. So if you pull up, the true map and you scroll into your downtown area and you look at, so we have a building, the old Sears building, and it is about, let's see, 60 feet wide by 120 feet deep. So you're looking at 4 by 8 inches. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the size of the building. If you try to, and that's not a big building. I mean, our downtown is, got, um, uh, 20 or 30 of those buildings. And if you're talking about, if you're a 60 by 120 foot building is, 4 by 8 inches. So, it don't take too many of those to build up your, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if you got that size of building, it would, you'd fill up your board in no time and only have 8 or 9 buildings. But, by the same token, having, because it's just, if you look at some of the boards that are out there, when they're setting up, whether it's BattleTech or boards that we've set up for city fights and CAV and everything like that, they've got all these, 4 by 4 size buildings, maybe 6 by 6 or whatever. I don't know, though. I think that the building that we did, the office building that we released, it was I think it's a 4 by 6 inch building. Yeah, no, yeah, that's a big building. Well, I mean, that's what's the cool thing about, obviously, with bigger buildings is you can make the ceilings where they came off. I mean, you could put in, uh, interior walls or something like that. You could come up with all kinds of scenario ideas, even at 10 millimeter. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to go back with our office building, and because that's when I built that office building. That's the reason I was even thinking of those sizes. Is I know that I looked at some buildings in our downtown area and things like that, and kind of that was that 4 by 6 was somewhere kind of close to that. Yes. Yeah, CAV is not. That's the structure rules in CAV is, I think, pretty much, if it's not a hardened building or whatever, it just gets destroyed. They move through the wall. It's not like in BattleTech where they're jumping on top of the buildings and stuff. But that might be interesting. I might look at doing that. I know that I've been kind of playing with some different kits and stuff, because that's the thing that always bothers me is I hate, you have these big skyscraper buildings on your board, and they end up there, that tall and that big square. Yeah, no jump jets. Uh, yeah, in BattleTech, buildings are support however many tons they are based upon their structure points. So I think like a light is 15. What are they? 15, 30. I don't remember those. God, it's been so long since I played. But that's how they um, build. That's so however many points it's got, that's the weight it can support. I know anything medium heavy or whatever like that, about anything can jump up on weight wise. Yeah, and that's, we're going to be doing some FDM terrain pieces and stuff like that. All our stuff will be pre-done, so you'll actually purchase the kit, not right here. If we will never, and this is me being old school, we will never release STL files for sale. If we release an STL file, it's just like the buildings that we've already done that are on the download page or something like that. They are free. You just go get them and on deal. But anything that we do commercial wise that starts with a 3D print, we will never sell our 3D prints. I know that's anti to the world where everything is going now with Patreon and the Kickstarters and everything, but I'm too old school. I can't go down that route. We've talked about it. We talked about releasing STL files, things like that. And it's in the long run, we want to be able to have something to sell. We're a miniatures company. Well, yeah. I mean, there's obviously that side of it too. We're not looking at trying to do $40 kits. So it's always one of the things I've always told people about other things and us and other people and things like that. It's hard to be a miniatures company if you're not selling miniatures. And I don't count 3D files as that. So if we do 3D files that we're going to release to somebody, we just give them to you. And luckily, even though it seems like that there's this explosion of 3D printers and everything out there, and there are, I mean, there's more people with 3D printers than there's ever been. But I think that there's still a lot of people out there that get them and can't stand them, can't figure them out, or don't even want to mess with them. I have, exactly. Well, so when I very first started with 3D printing, this was late 90s. I mean, we were, of course, through Reaper and everything like that, we were so far ahead of the 3D. We were figuring this stuff out as they were just figuring out how to make printers back in the day. I know that the original, we had a scale dictator that we made, and at the time that the material that it used, the resin that this particular printer used, it was this yellow amber looking, sappy looking stuff, and it was horrible looking. But we got one printed up, and we're like, oh, well, maybe this will go somewhere someday. Well, I kept up with it. I kept building with it. We were working. Rhino was the program that we used, that we were building models in and everything like that. So there was a company out on the East Coast called SolidScape, and they have been purchased by whatever Strato Systems, I think, own them now or whatever. But they came up with a wax printer. And it printed in layers of wax, and it would print a layer, and then it had a rotating cutter that went over the top of it that shaved it back off to get get it flat, and then it would print the next one. And it printed with two kinds of wax that had two different temperature settings. So it used one for support and one for the actual material. And after it was done, you could drop the piece down into heated mineral spirits, and the support wax just disappeared. and it left you with this nice wax piece. And I think still to this day, their printer was the thinnest printer layer wise. It was like point, I don't know, 0.0005 or something that you could get it down to. And I think that they still say that they've got the thinnest. They still do these wax printers because their market was jewelry. So they were going after jewelers because you could take that wax and do investment casting. And that's what the original CAVs, when we switched over to 3D printed stuff, I printed those out on that wax printer. We took them over to a jeweler. The jeweler did investment casting into silver for us, and then we took the silver master and cleaned it up and put it on mold. And that's where all the original models came from. But that first printer was $60,000, I think, was what that for the first printer that I ever bought was. So try to explain to your wife that you're getting ready to drop $60,000 on a printer. But what it saved us in, at the time, a hand sculptor, you were lucky if you could get a mech sculpted for $1,500. They didn't like to do them. It was just a mess. So, by the fact that we were able to do our stuff in-house, print those out and everything like that at $1,500 a pop, we got our money back on that printer pretty quick. And here's kind of a side story on that. So, and this just was a year or two ago. So over time, as we switched to other printers and doing other things, of course, that stuff go by, the company stopped supporting the machine. So when the printer eventually wouldn't work anymore, we couldn't get parts for it. They're wanting to sell you their new updated one. So it came to the point where I threw that thing in the dumpster to get it out of here. And you never can imagine taking a printer that you paid $60,000 for and throwing it into the dumpster was quite the event. But as I switched over to FDM printers here over the last 4 or 5 years or whatever, I started off with the Creality printers, and I don't care what anybody tells you, they're pieces of junk. Now they are great for, like Tiger said, or hobby, that they're a whole hobby within themselves. You can take a Creality printer and buy other parts for it and tweak it and do this and change this and whatever. And it's funny because a couple of Facebook groups that I watch or pay attention to or whatever is, you get all these guys going, oh, the Creality is a great printer, and you just don't know what you're doing. And the Ender series. So you just don't know what, as they're talking to other people bitching about these or whatever. And then, you just don't know what you're doing. You're just a deal. And then you find out their printer, and maybe the frame is the only thing that's original to that printer. So, if you're willing to take the time, because we sit around here, we had 3 of them. Well, I still have them. And we fought with those things. We ended up having to change out motors, boards. It was constant working on those things. And I just got tired of it. I just couldn't. I was like, man, and every time that we had it tweaked, where the sucker would finally print and we could get 2 or 3 parts off of it, then we'd come back after a couple of days and try to put something on it again, and it all had gone to shit. And, it needed us to start over and do this and do that. So I got so sick of them, I couldn't hardly see straight. So, I'd really, at that point, I was like, well, I'm done with these FDM printers. I mean, we've got these resin ones or whatever, and, but the FDM printers are great for doing terrain and bigger stuff and buildings and things like that. But I got to talking to somebody, and they introduced me to the world of Prusa. And so I got my first Prusa in. And, oh, the experience was orgasmic. The fact that I could get a printer and it worked, right? I mean, we basically took it out of the box. I bought mine already assembled. You can buy them and put them together. So it already came from the factory, already tweaked and dialed in and everything like that. And I mean, literally, we ran it through the wizard and we were printing that night with it. And it has just been like a bulletproof. It has just printed fine over and over and over. And, you know, I think at the time I paid like $900 for it. As opposed to, you know, I think the first Enders that we got was like the Ender 3s or whatever that I paid $300 a piece for. And then we got the bigger, the 5 or whatever Pro or whatever that was $500 or $600. But I guarantee you, by the time we were done with all the crap that we did on those, I have no doubt whatsoever that I spent $1,000 on those printers. So spending $900 a piece, so spending $900 on the Prusa was, you know, I wish I'd done that to begin with and I'd had more Prusas. So there's that part. I loved it. So. Well, and that's what was the good thing about the Prusa is literally, other than you know, taking the time to adjust the layer thickness, you know, make sure that the extruder was close enough to the deal, and you can adjust that on the fly. It's got the little wheel, and you know you print a square out, and you can adjust it on there. Once we did that, we just printed over and over and over. I don't know how many prints I've got out. At some point, obviously, we'll wear the tip out or something like that. We'll have to change some things out, but they're getting ready to come out with an XL version of their Prusa, a big one that you can get up to 5 print heads on it. And I'm going to get one with the 2 print heads so I can use the water soluble for supports. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. All right. Well, we have just kind of gone around the world tonight here with all kinds of stuff. It is the 9 o'clock. It's actually 9:03. It's the witching hour. So I want to get off here and go home. I'm ready to call it a day. I don't know what you guys are going to do for the rest of the night, but I'm going to go home and eat dinner and visit with the missus, see how her day went. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your support. Like I said, we will not have a show next Wednesday because I will be in Aurora and getting ready for Genghis Khan. So if you are in the Aurora, Denver area, not this weekend, but the weekend after, come by and say hi. We will be in the vendor room and we will be having some games and all that good stuff. So as always, thank you for your support. Thank you for being here, and I will see you guys on the flip side. Peace.